first term with the New Jersey State Senate. She represents the 40th Legislative District, encompassing portions of Passaic, Bergen, and Essex County. She is a lifelong resident of Totowa and an attorney by trade. After many years of service throughout Passaic, Senator Corrado was elected county clerk in November of 2009 and then reelected in 2014, serving the county for a total of 7 years. As the Passaic County Clerk, the Senator opened a satellite office in Wanacue and expanded their outreach program. She also partnered with the county's Department of Veteran Affairs to bring back the Veterans ID program and perform more than 1,500 wedding ceremonies as the county clerk. Senator Corrado is the Republican conference leader and serves on the Environment and Energy Committee, the Health, Human Services and Senior Citizens Committee, and the Judiciary Committee. Senator Steve Oroho is currently serving his 4th term in the New Jersey State Senate. He represents the 24th Legislative District in the northwestern portion of the state, which comprises all of Sussex County and parts of northern Warren and Morris counties. Before entering public service, Senator Oroho, a certified financial planner, had extensive professional experience in the financial services sector, working for some of the region's top firms in various finance-related capacities. Senator Oroho sits on 2 committees, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, as well as the Economic Growth Committee, and also serves as the Senate Minority Budget Officer. In the state legislature, Senator Oroho takes a particular interest in budgetary and economic development issues. He's helped craft in a bipartisan fashion nearly every major tax reform issue enacted in New Jersey over the past decade. His contributions have earned him multiple awards and citations from the business community in New Jersey, an honor in which he is extremely proud. Senator Oroho is married, has 5 children and 7 grandchildren, and resides in Franklin Borough in Sussex County. At this point, I thought we would allow the senators to talk a little bit again about their counties and telling us a bit about their district. So Senator Corrado, if you wouldn't mind starting, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. And to everyone that's watching, I hope you and your families are doing well and staying safe during this time. I come from the 40th District, which is the northern part of the state. We have Passaic and Bergen County, which was hit pretty hard by the virus. But we're an incredibly resilient district, and I think, like most people, are looking forward to getting back to work and reopening and finding out what our new normal is going to be.
Terrific. Senator Oroho?
Hey, Frank. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having Senator Corrado and myself on tonight. Senator Corrado and I, Kristin, we were texting how many times today?
Quite a few. And
on the phone and so many different times. Now I get to see you once again on Zoom. We've gotten to be pretty good Zoom, right?
Better. We're getting good at it.
And we're getting real good. And honestly, that's one of the real good compliments of us New Jerseyans and Americans and stuff. You know, we're pretty adaptable. So we've been pretty good at doing different things. And I represent the 24th District. And Frank, we want to thank you very much for everything you did for our district with respect to the sanctuary state and just our Bill of Rights and everything like that. So we really do appreciate that. We'll get into the discussions about what our offices are doing with the unemployment, because I know Senator Corrado and my offices, and I think every single office around the state, we volunteered to become trained, to become reviewers, approvers, whatever we can do to try and help, because that is that's probably the number one issue we're dealing with. The other number one issue we're dealing with, because they're both equally important, is how do we get our businesses up and running again? And I'm sure we get into a lot about that. But I just want to thank you very much for having this opportunity, because the more information we can get out, and Senator Corrado and I can talk a little bit about, we just did a letter to Senator Sweeney, right, about the nursing home and long-term care. We want an investigation done from the, I'm hoping that will be bicameral by the Senate and the Assembly with subpoena power to really get to the bottom of it. But that's something we can talk about. We got some time, but thank you very much for allowing us to be here. And just so you know, I have 7 grandchildren, but I have another one on the way.
Oh my God! Congratulations!
I have another one on the way. My daughter, my youngest daughter, who is a pharmacist, she's on the front line.
Uh-huh.
And God bless those people, the medical professionals, the first responders, the police officers, the firemen and stuff like that, and everybody, and those who are working in this, all the food stores and the people. Yeah, listen, we have, obviously we got to eat, we got to do those kind of things, but they are going to work every day, and
Mm-hmm.
they're taking the right precautions. But my daughter is a pharmacist. She is 7 months pregnant, and she keeps going to work.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully, actually the baby's supposed to be born on my 40th anniversary and my 62nd birthday, so that'd be nice.
Awesome. Awesome. Another wonderful Oroho Republican in the world.
Thank you.
Well, good. Well, we've been getting questions pretty much since Sunday afternoon. So the one that we've gotten the most of has happened probably in the last few hours here. But you both brought this up. You had asked to convene a committee, obviously, to investigate the deaths. And one of the questions that we had is, with more than half of New Jersey's COVID-19 deaths occurring in these long-term care facilities, could you speak to what you think, what went wrong and what could have been done to protect the most vulnerable? And I understand that what you're doing is going to be an ongoing sort of committee discussion on what to do. But if you can talk about what you guys felt, what went wrong and what you think could have happened.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to let Senator Corrado, start, because she's been tremendous. She not only did she lead us on the Senate Republican side in the Katie Brennan investigation, and I got to tell you, she did an amazing job in that. I think the minority report, the Senate minority report, was an excellent report that she helped author. So, and she's also an attorney, so I'm going to let her start.
Thank
Not
you.
let her start. She should start.
Yeah, so the Republicans have been, calling for hearings for a while. I think, like all residents of our state, we're absolutely horrified and concerned about what's going on in our nursing homes, our veterans' home, our assisted living, assisted care facilities. And we had noticed when this pandemic started, everybody remembers watching on the news that the nursing home deaths were happening in Washington. It's kind of almost inconceivable that when it hit our state, we weren't prepared. This is not the first time we've had a serious incident with our nursing home. Some of you might remember the deaths that occurred at the home in Montague with the medically fragile children that passed away. We had hearings back then. And so, there were a lot of indicators and things that we should have been doing. We know that seniors are our most vulnerable population, and yet we put them to the side. Nursing homes did not have the protective gear that they needed. They don't have tests. We're still not testing at the nursing homes. But if you ask the administration, they're doing a great job. Even the fact of how they changed the numbers recently, within the last few days, of how they're counting deaths at the nursing homes is questionable. And what's frustrating to me is I sit on the health committee, and Senator Vitale, about a week and a half ago, we're going to have hearings. And all of a sudden, he changed his mind. He's going to wait until the administration brings out their report, because they had to hire an independent company to look at what they're doing. So it's just, hypocrisy at its best. But, we all want our loved ones to be taken care of. The fact that we understand that, we didn't want people going to the nursing homes and visiting, but it's a double-edged sword because nobody was seeing what was going on. And there's a lot of wonderful people that work in the nursing homes and the veterans home, and they were, in just as bad of a situation because they didn't have the protective gear. Their numbers are astronomical, 9,000 care workers that are ill. That's insane. It should never have happened.
Yeah.
Very true. And I got to tell you, first of all, following up on Senator Corrado, 100% agree. You take a look at what happened in Washington, you look at obviously Italy and whatnot. We do know that our older population. Like, I'm an accountant. I'm not a. Believe me, I'm not a scientist. I'm not that smart, But all the evidence showed that when you look at the older population, they were going to be the most vulnerable. So when the governor decided to do that, following Governor Cuomo in doing that I guess, executive order saying all healthcare, the long-term care facilities had to take the COVID-19 patients. All you did was, unfortunately, you weren't getting, they didn't have the PPE. They didn't have, by the administration's own admission, they didn't have enough personnel. So why would you put everybody back into one facility? I mean, I would have thought that you would have said, okay, what if we set up a specialized unit and you took a few, maybe a couple of the healthcare or the long-term care facilities in the north, the central, and the south, and you said, we're going to make sure that they have all the PPE they need, all the trained medical professionals that they need, and quite frankly, instead of spreading the virus over or almost 600 different long-term care facilities, keep your personnel, keep your PPE in one location. I'm not sure why we didn't do that. Our office actually did. My office actually did get. We heard some rumors 4 days before they did the executive order about some of the long-term care facilities might be using COVID-19 or the coronavirus as a business model that they might be able to take on this kind of operation. So we sent an email down to the governor's office, and we asked them, are they allowed to do this? Is there a certificate of need? I mean, what kind of approval do they need? And quite frankly, the response we got back was, it's being elevated. I don't know how much higher you go. And, when you're asking, we got three, obviously we got three branches of government. In the executive branch, I don't know how you go higher than the governor's office. So we're told it was being elevated. So unfortunately, then 4 days later, they came out with the executive order. So Frank, there's just so much that we have to go through. And Senator Corrado was 100% right. The healthcare workers that are in those facilities. My mom, she's 87 years old now. God bless her. She's very spry, extremely spry. She worked until probably 7 years ago, right? She worked probably 30 years in a nursing home facility. And when they lose a resident, and they call them residents, they don't call them patients, they call them residents. When they lose it's like losing a family member. And she said, I talking to my mom, and she goes, Steve, I really feel really bad for those people that are helping, that in the nursing facilities, because every time somebody dies, it's like I said, losing a family member. So she said, I just feel so bad for them because she goes, I know how I would feel. So anyway, we just got to get to the bottom of it.
No, that's great. I appreciate what both of you are doing, because it seemed like we were going around in circles and circles until, you guys kind of took the bull by the horn. So.
No. Let me tell you, Senator Corrado doesn't like too many things go by the wayside. I'll tell you right now, I was getting text messages today saying, we got to do something about this. So.
Great. Well, I'm glad you guys are. And it kind of leads to the second question that we had. A bunch of people were asking, obviously, as state legislators, your life is hectic more now, but balancing your day-to-day professional and senatorial duties. How have things changed during these last few months? What is your new normal day like? And I hate that term, new normal, but what's your normal day like in managing the dual role?
It's been interesting. Like most people, things were changing so fast in the beginning. We didn't know what was coming at us. Things were changing day to day, almost hour by hour, with the state shutting down and all the different things happening. I'd say, at least in my professional life, my Senate duties have taken the priority. We never stopped working. And in fact, I would say we're working even more around the clock, 7 days a week, nights, weekends. Because people are reaching out to us for help. And I would say that's the biggest thing, the most important thing about our job is to help people. And it's frustrating when you feel like you really can't help because you don't have a partner in the administration, when you're not getting calls back from departments or you don't have anybody to pick up the phone and talk to. It's been the most frustrating part. And that's why I feel like we do have to be vocal to make sure that our voice is heard and that we can help our constituents. For a lot of them, it's, it can be from, what do I do about my son's driving test being canceled at DMV, to I haven't gotten a check in 10 weeks. I can't feed my family. And when we're referring people to food banks instead of getting an answer from the Department of Labor, should never happen. So I think it's been, we do our job. We try to help people.
Yeah.
That never changes.
Right.
That's right. You know what? Senator Corrado is 100% right, because, Senator Littell, who was before me in 24th District, you know what? It's kind of, we run offices just like, an accounting office, an engineering firm, an architectural firm, lawyer's firm. When the phone rings, you got to try and help people. And right now, most of our offices, our employees are remotely working, and they're working completely, just like everybody else. And that's the one aspect and the advantage that you see, because, and you see that there is hope, because we are so adaptable. We really are. Sometimes we think that we get stuck in our routines and stuff, but once that routine changes, it really is amazing about how quickly we can adjust to things.
Right.
And I think that's extremely important. Now, my normal day, and I sure with Senator Corrado, there is no normal, because you wake up and you have a few Zoom calls, you have to do a few things like this, but when the phone rings and stuff, and it just, no day is the same. However, there are a lot of commonalities in each day. Unemployment is a commonality every single day. The other thing that, as this goes on further and further, survivability of businesses is every single day. I talk to a lot of CPA. I'm a CPA as well. I talk to CPAs and whatnot. And quite frankly, I think one of the key aspects that we're looking at right now is, the survivability point, because you have some people saying, I have to go open up my shop, because if I can't, I didn't get PPP, the payroll protection program. So if they want to arrest me, because quite frankly, I have to provide for my family.
Yeah.
And I think we are really approaching, if we haven't crossed that point, we're really approaching it very quickly. I had a call with the governor's office today, and that was my message. I mean, quite frankly, we are past that point where people are going to, because survival is the number one instinct, right?
Yeah.
So the issue becomes, hey, if I can't keep, food on the table, I'm going to do whatever I have to do.
Yeah.
And I think we're at that point.
No, I saw that. I think you looked at my cheat sheet for the next question, Senator.
Sorry.
But that was another question that came up. A number of Governor Murphy's executive orders have had a negative and adverse effect on both small and large businesses throughout the state, drawing some criticism from constituents. Many of these businesses, as you had said, have ceased operations altogether. Some may never open up again, and it's beginning to shutter the state's economy. Obviously, we're running a negative deficit in the state anyway, and this is even worse. What are your thoughts about the current restrictions? And I know this rolls into, your thoughts about how we need to open things up.
Yeah, no, Senator Oroho touched on it, and him and I had quite a few conversations, even in the beginning. I own a small business. I own my own law practice. My partner is my dad. And the first 2 months, I told Senator Oroho I wasn't sure at the end of this situation if I would still have a firm. So I get what people are going through and how, scary these economic times are.
Yeah.
Senator Oroho and I have always said our business community is so smart and so adaptable, and they will put the precautions in place that they need to get their businesses back open. It makes no sense that you can't go in a small store, but there's hundreds of people at Home Depot or Walmart. Tell me how that's safer than being, a few people in a smaller business at the same time. There are models and plans all over the state with our incredible business people. The administration should be listening to them. They can tell us how to get back to work.
Yeah.
And Senator Corrado hits on perfectly. We've been working extensively with the New Jersey business and industry. There's actually a very good website, and njbia.org, and they have a resource page. We worked with there's probably 30 different industry plans that are there. And I thought the most important thing the legislature could do, because as the governor was dealing with all the healthcare things, and you can understand it, quite frankly, if you're dealing with people dying every day, you're going to be emotionally affected, right? But at the same time, we also have to think about what's next. And the thing is, the one that and I firmly believe that he likes to talk about, we can't have economic vitality unless we have health vitality, right? Mm-hmm. Well, quite frankly, the other way around, because you have to have both. Because once you get into an economic decline, an economic, spiral down, that affects mental health extremely important. I mean, the stress level is extremely high. So we know the businesses that they know that they have to gain the confidence. My son lives in Georgia. Now, Georgia opened up, and the governor of Georgia got some criticism and whatnot. But, the interesting thing is the people didn't come back right away. Yeah. The reason why they didn't come back, because you got to regain their confidence. And every single business knows that. And they also know that we have to take extra precautions, because if I don't gain the confidence of my employees and my customers, I may lose them to a competitor, or lose them. So they know the kind of, their biggest brand is their reputation.
Yeah.
And if they can have the confidence, that'll be better. The other thing I think we really need to do, Frank, in New Jersey, and I'm guilty of this, because I probably did it when Governor Christie was in office with the Sandy, hurricanes, Superstorm Sandy and whatnot. But the amount of power that the legislature, which is an equal branch of government, has given to the governor is way too much. And I think that we really have to look at, there's got to be a way that the legislature can have some leverage on the governor or the executive branch. And I know certain states have a time frame on, state of emergencies and whatnot. Now, I know there's some bills that are out there which would be really good to get through. But what governor is going to sign a bill giving him limited power? So the one thing we can do, and then one thing I'm asking for, and I think it would be good, that we have to have a constitutional amendment, because that can bypass the governor, and the people of New Jersey can vote on, should we have these unlimited state of emergencies, or should there be some sort of limitation? And I think there should be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing that I find fascinating, I know the industry that the governor comes from. And, I don't know where you are in that organization. You have to know the economic effects of a long-term shutdown, from minimally knowing how it affects both state and national GDP numbers, to just knowing, to your point, how it affects mental health. So someone who comes from the financial industry to barely address the long and the medium-term economic impact, to me, just is mind-boggling, and I don't get it.
Frank, the one you bring up a very good point with the mental stress and stuff. And listen, I know I'm probably talking too much, but here's what I'm really concerned about. I'm really concerned about. We talk about adult mental stress and whatnot, but I have, we talked about me having 7 grandkids and stuff. My oldest granddaughter is 10 years old. In 1968, I was 10 years old, right? I had no idea about the Hong Kong flu, none whatsoever. I didn't know. I was outside playing baseball, football, whatever I was playing, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to look it up on Wikipedia and find out what it was about. Uh-huh. So during the Hong Kong flu, and I actually asked the governor's office about this, they said, well, Steve, only 10,000 people died in the Hong Kong flu. No. 100,000 people in the United States died. Worldwide, 1 million to 4 million people died worldwide. In the United States, at the time, there was 205 million people. Today, there's over 330 million. So the equivalent number would be about, of those who died would be 150,000. Mm-hmm. Here's one thing about what I remember about 1968, 1969. The Mets won the World Series. Uh-huh. The Jets won the Super Bowl. The Knicks won the NBA. The United States was the first nation to put somebody on the moon, Neil Armstrong, right? I knew nothing about the Hong Kong flu at all. But you know what I really worry about? My granddaughter, who's 10 years old. Mm-hmm. I went through life for the next 52 years not worried about that stuff. Is she going to worry about wearing a mask? Is she's going to worry about being just life itself?
Sure.
Because there's risk in anything you do. So I'm really concerned about what mental stress we're putting on our younger people that is not being talked about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Next question, I think Senator Corrado, you may want to jump on. Freeholder Herb Yardley had asked, will you support making these inspections from nursing homes public? As a freeholder, it's frustrating. You have to Oprah all the information, and obviously to try and get to the bottom of and expediting whatever they need to find out. Is that something you'd look into?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I was reading the article today on NJ.com, you know, about the history of what's going on with the nursing homes during this pandemic. And they've still only inspected a very few of the many nursing homes we have throughout the state. The bottom line is the Department of Health is responsible for the licensing and oversight of all these homes. It's their job. So do your job. And that's why we need hearings to look into why they're not doing their job. But the more transparent, the more public, the better things are.
Thank you. Do you have any more? I know we have, oh God, all right. Perfect. I'm getting yelled at everywhere. Over 1 million New Jerseyans, and I think Senator Corrado, you touched off on this as well. 1 million New Jerseyans have filed for unemployment benefits since the beginning of the pandemic, with many thousands having yet to receive one dime of their benefits. What are some of the things your office is doing to assist those who are having trouble claiming their benefits?
And this is one of the most constants, as Steve said, in our lives, is dealing with people who are having problems processing their claims or haven't gotten paid yet. And when I tell you the numbers that we're dealing with in our legislative offices, it's overwhelming at times. There are so many people that have not gotten a dime, know that there's a glitch in their application, and the biggest problem is the lack of communication with the Department of Labor. Mm-hmm. There is no one to pick up and call. One of the things that we're doing is we encourage everyone to reach out to their legislative offices, and we take every call and email that comes in, and we literally fill out a form, a dedicated portal that goes to the Department of Labor. The one thing it does allow us to do is to track the claims that are coming through our office. We keep a running tally of all the outstanding claims, and we continually follow up on them. Before I got on the meeting tonight, I had, reached out to somebody that I saw post on Facebook, a friend who hadn't not been able to collect the entire time. And so I sent him a message. I said, email me, the information, and we'll see what we can do. And Senator Oroho was right. We've become almost like processing agents. We go online and check on the status of claims. We read every directive or guideline that the Department of Labor puts out. And so we try to assist in the beginning to make sure that the correct information is getting to the filer so that we can help process their claim as quickly as possible. And the other thing we continue to do is be vocal and reach out to the labor commissioner. And I've had quite a few conversations with them, I'm sure Steve has too, that they need to communicate, and 10 weeks in, they need to do a better job.
Agreed. Well, good. We have a next question here. This might be the last one. I know we're trying to keep this thing at a good pace, but we had lots of questions once people found out you guys were on, so I appreciate it. There's been an overwhelming show of support for frontline workers, including healthcare, essential personnel, and first responders. What sentiments would you like to share with these brave men and women? And are there any constituent-led efforts in your communities that you would like to share?
I think, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to all those who, day in, day out, never said no, stepped up and took care of everyone, especially in the beginning when we really didn't know much about this virus. Everybody was amazing. Look at, people were willing to stay home so people didn't get sick. Other people got up and went to work every day to take care of everyone. We have never appreciated as much as we do our grocery store workers, our truck drivers, everybody who kept the food chain and the food supply going. There are so many heroes during this pandemic. And I think one of the amazing things is the appreciation you see from everyone, whether it's the frontline appreciation groups that have popped up that are feeding our first responders, or just the front porch photo groups that the money, they take pictures of their family and they dedicate it. You hear of Rotary groups collecting food. You hear of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. I don't think there's anybody that hasn't been touched by this virus. We all know someone that's gotten sick, unfortunately, or even worse, passed away. And so you see the best in the spirit of New Jersey, where we're incredibly strong and proud, and we really want to support one another. And I think that's one of the best things that you have seen, is how supportive everybody is of one another.
Very true. I echoes the sentiments exactly, because you look at the examples. My wife Rita, Kelly knows Rita very well. She runs a food pantry, all volunteer. Mm-hmm. And when it first started, and this one food pantry feeds about 2,000 families a month, and they do about 600 of the student backpacks for every week, right? And when it first started, the volunteers were there. They still were there, but there were a few of the older volunteers that were concerned about, obviously, the virus and whatnot. Well, over the last 11, 10 weeks, whatever it happens to be, they've all been coming back and saying, you know what, I can't sit in the house anymore. I gotta do something. And they want to help people, right? They really do want to help people. And whether it be meals, you see a lot of the meals that are given to our first responders, healthcare workers, the kind of receptions at the supermarkets that they're getting. And I got to tell you, and the other night, one of the movies I love is Apollo 13, right? And there's a part where it really looks really dire and stuff. And I think the manager, the control manager is Gene, or I can't think of his name right now. But he turns around and people are like, talking back and forth. He says, you know what? This is going to be our finest hour, And I think when we look back on things, that we'll see, first of all, how adaptable we were and how compassionate we were. And I think those are some of the things that we just got to remember. And when things get back to whatever is the new normal or something, we got to remind, just like 9/11, right. Just like in all the, the soldiers that are now coming home, we're not going back to the Vietnam kind of era, because guess what? Those Vietnam, veterans now, let me tell you, you can't get anybody better that is supporting any of the, our soldiers or first responders or whatever, because they will never, ever allow what happened to them happen to anybody else. And quite, you couldn't be any more proud of something like that. So I do really believe that this could end up being our finest hour, particularly if we let the clock run on as this thing as we get through this.
I agree with that. I know my wife is laughing. Apollo 13 is one of my favorite movies, and it's Gene Kranz.
Gene Kranz, that's it. That's it.
As soon as you said that, I know Patty's sitting down going, I'm sure that he gave the senator that question to feed him. But yeah, that's
no, I got to tell you, I love it. And then when Tom Hanks looks at the moon and says, "Gentlemen, I want to go home." Right? I love it. So anyway.
Excellent. Well, we're gonna kind of end it soon. I know we went a little over, but no one's leaving. So I do want to offer both Senator Corrado and Oroho the opportunity for some closing remarks here. I know we covered a lot of stuff, but Senator Corrado, if you would offer some closing remarks to the group.
So I'd just like to thank you, everyone that was on or listening, for taking the time. Thank Frank for everything he's doing during this time. Keep working hard. You're making us all proud. And again, we're here to help anyone. We pick up the phone, call us, email us. We'll get through this. And if we work together, like Senator Oroho said, this will be our finest moment. And I think that is one of the nicest things that we have seen, how truly compassionate and strong New Jersey is.
It's always tough to follow Kristin Corrado. What the hell? What does somebody say after that, right? But Frank,
how I feel following both of you.
I want to thank you very much for everything you've done, because let me tell you, it is leadership, that stuff, because people do want to hear what is happening, and the whole issue of the adaptability that you help provide tonight, and the information that we can help give. Chris and I are on the phone all the time.
Mhm.
And sometimes, to be able to then give back that information to people, quite frankly, very rewarding to ourselves as well. So we want to thank you for all the hard work you're doing. Keep up the good work, and let's do this again.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, and I just want to say, I mean, obviously everyone knows I'm running, and one of the things that I did, and Senator Corrado touched on this, running at the end of the day, when you serve the people. It's not the other way around. When you mention that you pick up the phone and you take all these calls, that's what you do. And the longer I'm in this race, the more I look to both of you as the role models, not just for me, but anybody who wants to look at politics. I know, John Azaridi is looking to jump in, and a few other people somewhere down the road. You guys are great role models. You're great legislators, and you're great friends. So thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate everyone. I know we ran over a bit, but this was terrific, and I hope to have you guys back again soon. Thank you so much.
To be continued.
Thank you.